So today we're going to dive into something that doesn't really get talked about enough in the world of competing, the mental side of comp prep. So everyone always sees the stage photos, the physiques, the glory, the bikinis, but what about the mindset, the struggles, and what happens after the show? Today I'm joined by Katie, who is our in-house psychotherapist here at TB Community. Now, Katie's not a competitive fitness model herself, but she spent years helping women in our community work through the challenges that come with body image, food relationships, motivation, stress, perimenopause, and everything in between. So she brings a really powerful lens to the psychology of competing. We're going to break down some of the big mental hurdles competitors face, from pressures of dieting to comparing yourself on social media, all the way to post-show blues that so many athletes struggle with but rarely admit. My goal is that by the end of this conversation, whether you're a competitor or just someone on a fitness journey, you'll walk away with the strategies to protect your mindset and feel stronger through it all. So I just want to introduce Katie. Welcome, Katie. So today we're going to speak about comp prep. Now, everyone sees, when it comes to comp prep, competitive bodybuilding, obviously we deal with females. Everyone sees the glitz, everyone sees the glamour, but what about the mental side? What about the challenges? Like, people see the stage time and that aspect of it, and they kind of assume that's what it's about. But what about the weeks preceding that, the months preceding that, the years preceding that, in terms of what it takes to be able to build that type of physique, the mental struggles, the challenges, the restrictions, and also what it takes on a mental aspect to be able to do that to a not only a high level, but in terms of the people that we deal with, in terms of Team TBC, the world-class level. We have world champions, regional champions in. That's what we want to talk about today with Katie. Katie is not experienced, as you know, she's not a fitness competitor. She never had done that, but that's good because Katie works with a lot of our clients, and has her own practice. She's been working for years with women, dealing with stress, perimenopause, struggles, everything around mindset. So she is going to come at this with a professional edge. I've obviously been in competitive fitness modeling for over 20 years now, so I'm going to ask her some questions, and I really want to get a professional outlook on it. Someone that doesn't, excuse the dog, someone that doesn't and hasn't experienced it, but again, from a professional standpoint. So I'll introduce Katie. Welcome back, Katie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Good. How are you doing today?
Yes, good, thank you. Yeah, busy,
Good.
but all good.
Busy, but busy good.
Yes, good stuff going on.
Okay. Good. So what we're going to speak about today is the three of the main ones that I kind of hear a lot through competitors. And we're going to speak about the mental demands of comp prep, peak prep. We're going to speak about body comparison, body image. I know a big thing that Katie deals with, and Katie does deal with this a lot within TB Community and the body confidence method, and also post-show blues, which I think a lot of people don't speak about, but it's very apparent now because we've just had a competition on the weekend, the FMG London. So this is what we're going to speak about. So first of all, Katie, I want to ask you, in terms of the mental demands of comp prep, from your perspective, why do you think dieting for comp prep can feel so much harder than just regular weight loss or regular fat loss?
Because there's a lot more pressure around it, and there's a timeline as well. With general sort of fat loss, you know, any kind of health goal, although you probably give yourself a timeline, there's no really kind of certain pressure to hit that timeline, is there? Unless maybe like it's, you know, for a holiday or a wedding or something like that. But even so, it's not such a pressurized kind of timeline with such a big goal in front of you. You know, you're going to be on a stage, you're going to be judged. Obviously that's not the case when you know, if you're losing weight for a holiday or whatever. So yeah, timelines, pressure in itself then adds more stress. And that's stress, and then you're caught in that vicious cycle. From the physical side of it, psychologically, like, you know, you are effectively, your body isn't designed to eat as little calories, so then you're going into starvation mode, which then if you're in starvation mode, your brain thinks that something bad is happening, so then that creates extra pressure as well. So yeah, the timelines around it, definitely. And the comparison. Like if you're on a weight loss journey, you're generally doing it for yourself, whereas this is ultimately to be judged against other people. So there's the pressure that comes with that as well.
Yeah, I think the judging aspect is probably the most standout factor in that. Um, there's there's no denying and there's no getting around that you will be judged purely by your physique, by how you look, which is a lot of people will say that's very fairly demoralizing, and it is. But at the end of the day, it's the sport is the sport, and you can't get
Yeah,
around it.
yeah, of course. Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
compet- Competitors often feel like their life literally revolves around food and training, which they like. I mean, they've chosen that lifestyle, and some are within that lifestyle in terms of their business, some aren't, but it's their hobby. Um, what's happening kind of psychologically when that level of obsession takes over?
it's because it's your sole focus. Because your focus getting up every day is food, training, everything else that goes alongside getting ready for a show. It is your only focus. So then you end up losing sight of the other things which actually make you feel good. And that's when those obsessional tendencies then tend to creep in with, your body comparison, etc., etc. Obviously, the sole focus on that, what's happening is your brain is thinking, like I said before, that you are under threat because there's so much pressure around it. So then the stress hormones build up. The more stress hormones there are, the more obsessive you're going to be around things. Again, if you're restricting calories, you're prioritizing food, you're naturally on survival anyway. So survival instinct it just naturally comes with stress hormones and pressures anyway.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean it's quite a big one, because at the end of the day, it's anything like, I mean, dealing with professional people in professional sports, and you know you often hear it is, the obsessive ones are the ones that are top of the league, right? It almost comes with that necessity for that level of sole focus in terms of obsession to be able to achieve greatness.
Yeah, yeah, but then there's what goes alongside that as well is like ultimately, um, and I guess this is the difference with the bikini prep because it's not like you're not constantly competing as opposed to I don't know like a football or whatever. You have got
Yeah.
those waves in between, but then yeah, what everything else like in your life is that taking a massive hit alongside. So yeah, it's just the
Probably. I
balance.
mean, it does. Yeah, I mean, it definitely does take a hit. I mean, I've competed before, and obviously dealing with competitors for over 20 years myself in terms of females, most of us realize, and we try and limit the amount of restriction to the peak prep process. So essentially the peak prep process, Katie, is the dieting phase. It's a time where the sole focus is on achieving conditioning, like low body fat levels. It's
Yeah,
probably the most challenging time physically, because obviously there's a lot of restriction that comes with that. It's
yeah,
not just, I always say, it's like going on a fat loss diet times, and then 60% extra on top of that. It's, you're taking your body to an area that really doesn't want to go, especially a female physique, those level of body
yeah,
fats, that level of body fat. So it comes with a lot of challenges. But we always try and say that, peak prep is the time where most of the restriction is. But, these women and these competitors face challenges all through. They face
yeah,
challenges, which we're going to speak about later in terms of the post-show blues, going into the show, obviously. It can be a very motivating side of it as well, because obviously
yeah,
during that phase, that is when they're getting leaner. They're seeing the fruits of their labor come. They're seeing their body shape up because their body fat starts to drop. They're noticing weekly changes, sometimes even daily changes in their physique. They've got a number in their head in terms of a goal weight that they're going to be, and they are steadily progressing towards that goal weight. So it's a very motivating
yeah,
time in terms of that. And some people don't really struggle with that, and that's part of a
yeah.
motivation. Or some people really struggle with the flip side of that, which is after competition. I don't want to go in it too much because we are going to come into that
Yeah,
later on, but I'd love to move in because it kind of transitions nicely, Katie, to kind of
yeah,
comparison, body image, and identity. Something that I know you work with a lot of your clients anyway, and I know
yeah,
you work a lot within TB community with the clients in the body confidence method.
yeah,
Um, let's speak about competitors, but let's have a little bit of a broad aspect on this as well. Um, why do women and men, but competitors especially, struggle with comparing themselves to others, especially on social media. I think that's a big one.
Yeah. Well, firstly, it's a natural process comparison, because that is, in primitive times we had to compare each other. Like, you had to basically be the strongest person in order to survive, so there was naturally comparison. So to some extent in daily life, like, we're always going to compare ourselves. That's just a natural human thing.
Yeah.
But the obviously the danger comes when it becomes obsessive, and you're constantly doing it, and then you're letting yourself, it's stopping you from doing other things. Social media, everyone's capturing their best angles, aren't they? You're only seeing the things that,
Exciting. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, that you want to see. So psychologically, that's all then you're focusing on. You're not seeing people posting like the bad angles of themselves. So then you get more obsessive about the things that you're seeing. And like we said before, knowing that you're going to be judged, it's the nature of the process. You are going to, it's a comparative contest. So you're naturally going to be comparing yourself more. But then when you're going on social media, it just makes it 10 times worse, because you're only seeing the best shot. You're not also seeing the struggles behind it either, are you?
Yes, you don't. But this is the one thing I want to ask you, whether there's a like a psychologist term for this. Even when, so people, obviously social media is completely highlight reel. No one wants to show their worst self. No one wants to show the bad image, the bad lighting, stuff like that. But, and here's the flip, some people do show that element of it. But there's always don't you find there's always like a marketing spin around it? Although they are showing the bad side of things, for example, a bad light or something like that, they'd never show that bad image of them when they are actually feeling at their worst. They normally only show it when they're feeling good, and then they could refer back to it. Is there some kind of a term that surrounds that? I'm sure there must be.
Yeah, it's called hedonic adaptation is the actual term. So basically it's like the more progress that you make in yourself, then you only compare back to that, if that makes sense. So you wouldn't compare back to like day one. You only then start comparing back to, I don't know, like day 50 or whatever. So that's when I'm probably going off on a slightly different tangent now, but that's when it's like the obsessional, especially post, which I know when we're going on to, that's when that kind of kicks in a little bit more. So basically your brain will only magnify the flaws that it can remember. Does that make sense?
Right. That does make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, so if you're posting your flaws, like you said, when you're at your best, you're not necessarily as tuned into them, because you're kind of like removed from it almost.
It's like, would they post those images? And I know some people do, but very rarely. Especially, headers don't really post those images when they are actually in the depth of that pain, when they are currently suffering with it. Yeah. Probably not.
Probably no.
So again,
probably not.
Yeah. Sorry. So it's always that. It's like, even when you see competitors and other people post on social media that they are having a bad day or stuff like that, they're never normally making it that they are having a bad day at that time. It's always like on reflection. Yeah. Because they never want to post something, I guess, that's going to be viewed on by other people and put them in an awkward position when they are currently feeling it. It's normally when they are feeling better that they would then reflect back on and say, oh, I had a bad day then. Yeah.
And because your brain can't relate to that as much, then you're more removed from it.
Yeah.
It's like if you see like an old photo of yourself from years ago, you don't necessarily see it as yourself.
Yeah, 100%. So identity, this is quite a big one, because this is a lot of something competitors struggle with so much, especially when they start competing, or, for example, they are in the off season, they're gaining a little bit of body fat, they look normal, they're not unhealthy by any means, but in their mind they are fat. I'm just going to say, in their mind they are not lean. There are a lot of people's identity are stuck in that lean fitness stage physique, and they really struggle to in during the off season, stuff like that, even when they gain
Yeah.
2 kilos, 3 kilos, which is natural, and like anyone will know, it is not healthy and is not maintainable or sustainable to stay in your stage physique. How important is it for competitors to focus, to obviously have an identity in terms of that, they are competitors and that's something they want to do, but also have that shift to be able to remove themselves from that identity, that they're not just their stage physique?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's really important because that makes the transition afterwards so much easier. So we need a positive purpose in life, like we all do. It comes from
Mm.
when we had like set roles and responsibilities to fulfill. So the prep is great for that because for some people they thrive off it. It gives you a positive purpose. You've got something to work towards. You've got getting everything else ready alongside. Great, but then when that finishes, like what is then your purpose and your routine and your structure? So it's good to still keep everything else as it is, so that when that finishes you've got more of that positive purpose to go back to. Or flipping it round and sorry, go on.
No, you go. Carry on.
Or flipping it round, and when when your comp has finished, your positive purpose is working towards getting your body back to where it was. It's all about, it's the goal orientation that your brain works towards. Like if you just suddenly finish and you don't have like anything, any goal, any purpose, then that's when it's going to hit much harder.
Yeah. So I guess this is what we obviously teach a lot about, and we do a lot of work with competitors going in peak prep, to especially first time competitors, to make sure they are fully aware and what they will experience post competition. Because we're going to move into this now anyway, but post competition is a very challenging time. I'm going to give you an example for first time competitors. I'm going to give you a case study. A competitor comes to us that's never competed before. She's got a good physique. She's trained for 5-6 years. She's got a fairly good base, and she wants to go straight into a peak prep, which essentially means she's going to go straight into a dieting phase leading the competition. So the focus is just achieving stage conditioning. She's never achieved stage conditioning before. She's been leanish before, but never really comp lean. So there's a big difference. And she's going into the unknown, so there's a lot of unknown about it. She knows kind of what it's about. She knows potentially a stage weight that she might need to get into. Now during that peak prep process, she is loving life. She's not really noticing much about the deficit. She's not, because the motivation is so high to do her first competition, she's seeing weekly changes in herself. She's getting leaner than she ever does before. And as a competitor, we know, and as a lot of people, we love to be fairly lean. Like we prefer to be lean than on the other side of it. So she's seeing this weekly changes. It keeps her pushing. She's handling the deficit. She's so focused. Everything in her life during that 16, 20 weeks, whatever it may be, is focused around routine that's bringing her into that stage. We've had this case before where we've tried and we've given them the information, the education. We have a lot of trainings within our team, TBC and community, on how they will feel post competition, what they need to do during the peak prep process to put themselves in a position to be fairly mentally strong. Oftentimes, what happens, they finish the competition. Sometimes they do well, sometimes they don't do as well. The ones that don't do as well as they may have expected, they normally get hit the hard, because suddenly they are now hit with something that they've been aiming for the last 16 to 20 weeks, getting weekly progress, hitting their numbers, stuff like that. And now the thing that they've done not only is finished and they now have no direction, but they also didn't really get much from it. They don't feel they did. They feel kind of deflated. They feel like they've let themselves down. They feel like they let other people down. It's not really a question, because I want to speak about this in terms of from a professional standpoint. But after this months of like structure, purpose, and discipline, many competitors do feel completely lost post-show. I've told you kind of why it happens, but from your mind, what do you feel, number one, why it happens, and number two, what can you do to try and protect against that?
Yeah. Make sure you are still doing everything that you were doing before. So socialising, getting out, doing things, the work side of it, just all of the general life things that you were doing, try to keep them in as much as possible in the lead up, and go back to doing them. Split it into chapters as well. Like, don't see it as like, oh god, it's ended. Like, split the prep, the comp, the post, and see it in different chapters. So when you've got that post, like I said before, like, give yourself something to work towards then as well, from the physical aspect of it. Also looking at personal growth as well. Like, actually, it's not just about the physique, but look back and break it down into what you've achieved personally, and vice versa. When you're starting out, give yourself those personal goals with it too. Like, don't let it become all the sole focus. I mean, obviously it's hard because that is the sole focus, is the body composition, but make sure you are focusing on like your achievements personally alongside it as well. And breaking it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough because, saying something like that in terms of like keeping socializing and stuff like that in it, we always say, yes, you want to try and be as social as you can, but it's, when you are tracking calories, when sometimes you are, prepping your meals, being consistent, it's quite tough to go out with other people. Number one, you've got a little bit of peer pressure. Number two, for example, you're going out with work colleagues, you're not drinking, you're not eating the food and stuff like that. It's very challenging because then you feel like almost like demonized. And they were like, and then obviously there's the other flip side of that, where even friends and colleagues and stuff like that, they start to then reflect their insecurities on you because they look at you in terms of being great and fit and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, why are you doing that? You're too this, you're too this. And then a lot of people just say, well, I don't want to even engage in that. I would rather stay home, prep my food, and just concentrate or go in the gym. It's really tough, and I don't have an answer for this because number one, it differs from person to person, and number two, yes, you want to try and keep as much during the peak prep process. You want to try and keep as much normality as possible, but sometimes again it goes into that kind of elite level nature of it. Sometimes you just don't want to, and you want to disappoint. It's like,
but I guess that's where community is important. Like, communicate and interact with people who get it. Like with anything, like the people who get it will, even if it is just calling people, texting people, talking to people who understand is a huge part of anything. Because you're right, it's so hard when somebody doesn't get something that that you're doing and you're into. So having the other competitors around you and making sure you keep in touch and share things that way is huge. It's a massive support system.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, I think that's why obviously through TB Community, which obviously you're a part of, and you share daily motivation, and you help the girls through, the women, both in the both in the body competence method and Team TPC and the comp prep. Having that community aspect is massive. Like, yes, you may not be able to relate to friends and family and stuff like that. I mean, still, my parents, when I go to the gym, they say, "Oh, why don't you just go for a run?" I'm like, "Mum, you don't get it." And this is 13 years post competing. Like, a lot of people just won't get that journey. People don't get your fat loss journey. When you are some people don't even get your want to improve your health or fitness journey, just basic stuff. But that's always going to be a case. And I think, I'm right in saying, Katie, that it's probably more of a reflection on them than you, right?
No, I guess so. I'm just comparing it to my self-employed journey. That's something that I can, I came across a load of people who just can't relate to being self-employed, but then when you talk to other self-employed people, they get it. It's the same concept. It's just talking to people who get it and in the same position.
Yeah 100%. I mean, it's the same thing. As I said before, I just want to emphasize the importance of community and team, because obviously within TB Community and Team TPC, we have a WhatsApp community, we have a private one for the team, we have TB Community. A lot of we started focusing on community around about 5-6 years ago, and we had so much positive aspect from it in terms of having people to relate to. Because as I said before, when you do a peak prep, when you are doing a dieting phase, sometimes you don't relate to the people that you want to relate to. That's fine. They can sometimes take a step back a little bit. But having people that are going through, not only who are going through exactly the same thing as you, but have been through the same thing as you and have useful information in terms of how to deal with it at the time, I think is absolutely super important.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, last question, Katie. Last question. What strategies can help athletes transform back into everyday life without spiraling in terms of like binge eating, low mood, self-criticism, which often happens post-show? What
Yeah.
advice would you give?
Set reverse goals, like whether that's from a physical perspective or a mental perspective. Like, still give yourself goals to work towards. If you're completely taking all of those huge goals away, that is when you are going to feel completely lost.
Mm,
The peer aspect of it, like we've talked about, stay away from social media if that's a trigger.
that would be great.
Like I said before, like reflect on the personal growth. So look back at, what have I achieved, but then put it into practice daily. Like, what am I achieving every day? So again, it's just take that focus away from the comp. Like, actually, now it's finished. What am I still achieving every day? What am I proud of myself for? Recognizing those things. Yeah. And just try and build that normality back in slowly. The small steps is the key. Just small steps back into life as it was before.
Yeah, which is very important. And in terms of to give a little bit of advice for anyone watching me from a coach's perspective of things, you have to remember that the peak prep side is very physical. It's very aesthetic. That you are chasing aesthetic goals. You are chasing weight drops. You are chasing measurement drops, and you are chasing to bring in a physique that's aligned with your category and aligned with your federation. Once that stops, once the competition is done, you should have goals after, but the goals move more into performance. So the goals then move into the reversal period, obviously bringing yourself back into weight, bringing calories up to maintenance, reducing training volume slightly, favoring a little bit more intensification training, scooping down on cardiovascular training, and just getting your body a little bit more aligned. A lot of women obviously lose their cycle or struggle a little bit hormonally, and males during that peak prep process. So it's very much like the reversal phase is fairly simple. It's bringing your body back to baseline. And at that point, then the goals become less aesthetic focused, pretty much not aesthetic focused at all, and all performance. So data driven, strength, progress, getting yourself back into reality. It's a very important aspect of it. And if you have those dialed in before your competition and have a little bit of a vision in terms of what you want to do, potential scenarios post-competition, you're going to be better mentally, and you're going to better handle that post-show competition. Because yes, you are going for a pro card, but only one person is going to win, only one person is going to come second. Whatever the result is, you've got to remember competing is a journey. And if it's your first competition and your first thing you've ever done, that is the beginning of your journey, no matter what the results say. Competing is not only a part in terms of aesthetics to grow your physique, you will learn a lot about yourself on the way. Yeah. Okay. But Katie, I want to say a massive thank you for joining us once again. I will see you again very soon. Anything you want to add to our listeners?
No, I think it's amazing, the whole comp prep thing. I think like all of the women that have done it are doing it. It's amazing. It's pure like mental resilience that you need. So yeah, just be proud of yourself for going through that. Not many people can do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you, Katie. I shall see you on the next one. Anyone looking, I'll see you soon.